Why hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I am your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield, and today, my friends, we're going to have a very fun episode. We're going to do a lore video, yes, for our lore playlist. Hope you're having a wonderful day in Middle-earth, and this is a special one, a special featured one. This is for Easter, so happy Easter, all of you out there. So what we're going to talk about today, I want to go over, and I've got some cool thoughts on, is we're going to talk about the relation, with the resurrection of Gandalf and Glorfindel, and what may have played into that with Tolkien's beliefs in life. All right, so that's what I'm gonna go over today. So I'm really excited about this. It'll be really fun. So stay with me. Let's have some fun, and hope you're having a wonderful day in Middle Earth. Get a nice drink to enjoy yourself while we talk about this. So what I'm thinking is, all right, for one, a lot of people, one thing I want to tell you guys that I think is very cool, okay? So what is the meaning of Easter, right? What is the original meaning of Easter, okay? So we have to clarify this, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, it's chocolate and bunnies, right? Easter egg hunts. Well, that's a fun thing and all. But the actual original meaning of Easter was obviously the resurrection of Jesus Christ, right? Through history, right? That was the actual original thing. Now, again, disclaimer right now for everyone out there, this channel is for everyone and everyone is welcome. But I have my beliefs and I say a little bit, but I don't push them on anyone. And one thing people have to understand is, as a Christian, the only reason that I tell you guys about my belief in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, the only reason that I would tell you guys that is because I love you as other people. And if you don't want to believe that, it's a free gift. Like, you don't have to accept it, right? And you don't even have to believe it, right? That is up to you. And I just want to make that very clear, because a lot of times I think a lot of people have an impression from Christians that they're trying to be pushed on, or trying to like, oh, checked off, oh, I told that person, check. Well, you know what? There are some people like that. I don't think that is the correct way to do it. I think that the only reason I'm telling you about it is because I just like you to know what I believe, right? That's just like you guys might believe something entirely different, right? So, but again, the real original meaning of, with all that spiel out of the way, I just want to make sure I have that disclaimer for you guys, because I want everyone to feel welcome. And no one to feel like, oh, that's off, turn off the video. You know what I mean? We're going to go into Gandalf and Glorfindel. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. But the true meaning of Easter, the original meaning of why Christians celebrate it, and everyone who wants to join in with it, is that because of Jesus resurrected, right? He died on the cross, he rose again 3 days later, right? By his own power, because he is God, right? That is the story and history. In my view, it's what actually happened. I know other people are going to say, well, it's a story. But anyway, it's important to know because Tolkien believed very similarly to what I believe with that, okay? But Tolkien also didn't really want to make exact one-for-one parallel. He did stuff, and you can often see he took inspiration from what his beliefs were in life, but he didn't want you to believe directly one for one, like, oh, like this person is representative of this person in the Bible, right? He didn't want that. He was very clear about that. He didn't want that. So we're just going to talk about what inspirational things he might have got from the stuff with the resurrection of Gandalf and Glorfindel, and some of the differences, right? From what he and I believed in what we believed was fact and history versus what his stories were, because he knew they were stories he made up, right? With his awesome fantasy of Lord of the Rings. So with that aside, now we're gonna go straight into having fun and talking about the lore of this stuff. So first things, I'm gonna pop up this little thing and we're gonna talk about it. Where does Tolkien talk about the part where Gandalf resurrects, right? So they show it in the movie, right? They show it in the movie with all this stuff. So let me bring this up here, right here. Boop. All right, right here. So this is what I'm gonna read for you guys real quick. So what Gandalf said about it, this is in The Two Towers, Chapter 5, The White Rider, right? Then darkness took me, right? This is what he quotes in the movie, right? You all remember the movie, right? Then darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time, and I wandered far roads that I will not tell. Naked I was sent back for a brief time until my task is done, and naked I upon the mountain top. I was alone, forgotten, without escape, upon the hard horn of the world. There I lay, staring upward, while the stars wheeled over, and each day was as long as a life age on the earth. Faint to my ears came the gathered rumor of all lands, and the springing and dying, and the song and the sweeping, and the slow everlasting growing of overburdened snow, right? So he woke up to being on the mountain in snow, right? Resurrected. Now, here's the first thing that I find very interesting, okay? So I'm going to switch over to another picture here for you guys. One second. There we go. All right. So, got some cool pictures while we talk here, okay? So, when Gandalf, right? Gandalf the Grey, right? He's his character, who's fantastic. We love Gandalf. But we're directly talking about when he gets resurrected and turned to Gandalf the White, right? We give it extra powers. All right. So now, again, if we're looking at this, I will bring this back up one more time here, because this is very important, the picture information. So then also, in one of Tolkien's letters, letter 156, right? This is a great little article someone had posted that thank you to them. It was a group thing. He was sent by a mere prudent plan of the alleged Valor or governors, right? The authority taking up plan and engage. Anyway, you can read more yourself right there at the bottom. But that is basically, it's interesting because he doesn't really outright say, Tolkien leaves it kind of vague in a fun way, because that's what makes his story so good, right? He leaves it kind of vague that Gandalf was revived, right? And resurrected, basically. So everyone's like, oh, well, he made it so vague, right? Like, who resurrected him? Well, obviously, in my belief of looking at the story, I'm pretty sure it was obviously Eru, right? I mean, sorry, the Valar, right? You know, and Iluvatar, they were obviously the ones, Eru, the one, right? They brought him back, right? They have the kind of power to do that with souls, right? In the story. So he was dead. They brought him back. Now, the interesting difference of that, of the story or history of Christ, is the fact that he brought himself back, right? Because he was God, right? So that's the difference. Gandalf didn't bring himself back. So that's an interesting little difference there, right? But that's why I want to tell you the whole spiel at the beginning, because I think that's interesting differences, right? How Tolkien did that. But then also, we're going to be talking about Glorfindel too in this video, okay? Because he was also resurrected, right? So again, Gandalf was brought back, and he was basically blessed with the powers, more power, right? Because the Valar were like, oh, well, we got to bring him back because he died sacrificing himself. What was he doing? Fighting this guy, right? The Balrog, which is kind of, I've always thought the Balrog was cool. Now, some people don't like the wings on the Balrogs. I agree, it's not super clear, so that was more of the movie thing that added that, but I assume more the wings were more like a smoke. They weren't like a physical wings like they show in the movie, even though it does make them look like a fallen, because the Maiar are basically kind of like again, Tolkien doesn't want these things paralleled as much, right? But they're kind of like angels, right? And demons, like a fallen and good and bad, right? You can kind of take a little bit of parallel there, but again, as a Tolkien lover, I don't want to take things out of context of what Tolkien wants that to be his own individual story. And he knows that the story, it's different from what Tolkien's life views were and what he believed was real fact in life, where I have similar views to him, that Jesus and the Bible being real historical stories. And when Jesus talked, he was more talking with some stories where he was making a point, right? But that's a different thing. We're sticking to Gandalf, all right? So, I love this. That's pretty cool. But anyway, so Gandalf, right, fights the Balrog, sacrifices to save the Fellowship and basically save the world, right? Because if the Balrog gets the ring, that would be bad, right? So Gandalf sacrifices, dies, and then he doesn't die immediately, obviously. They fall down into the hole. A lot of people don't realize this in the movie. They fall all the way down to the abyss, right? The foundations of stone in the dark abyss of this giant lake down there, which has horrible creatures way worse than the Balrog, right? You find that out in LOTR if you follow and watch my stuff. But then they fall all the way to the bottom, and then they run. There's a Durin Stair. It starts there. Durin Stair is basically a spiraling tower of stairs that literally goes up from the lowest point in Moria to the peak of Durin's Tower at the very top, okay? So they fight all the way up to the very top, and that is where Gandalf fights the Balrog even more at the very top of the tower. And I love this one though, because it's a very cool rendition. Whoever did this art here, I just found it online. I don't think it was copyrighted, but give credit to them either way. But yeah, it's really cool. That one doesn't have wings. See how they did the Balrog there? Very cool, right? Again, Gandalf and the Balrog are the same kind of spiritual creature. A lot of people don't realize that. They're both Maiar, okay? So Gandalf has just taken the form of an older human man, right? And the Balrog is corrupted by Morgoth and has taken the form of basically a type of, almost a demon, right? In the sense of what we would think of in the lore, or a Balrog of Morgoth, as they say, right, in the books. So then the next thing, right? So Gandalf, at the top of the tower, he fights the Balrog, he dies, right? He gets killed. he kills the Balrog. They kill each other, which kind of makes sense because they're in equal power. Now remember, Gandalf wasn't the most powerful out of the Astari. The Astari are the 5 wizards, right? It's the 2 blue wizards, Radagast, Saruman, and Gandalf, right? Those were the 5 Astari, right? And it'd be interesting if we see the blue wizards in the Amazon series because they came before the other 3, before the ones we know about in the Lord of the Rings. But remember, Saruman turned, right? He betrayed and started thinking himself better. Like he could be a ruler of the world like Sauron, right? And join in, which I'm sure made the Valar very upset because he was supposed to be kind of a defender and a fighter against Sauron. Now he's trying to become more powerful and he dons his coat, right? Saruman of many colors, right? He thinks he's better, right? So again, what happens is the Valar realize Gandalf's sacrifice to basically save everyone. So what do? He strays out of thought and mind, right? Which, oh, well, the one image isn't coming through, but that doesn't matter. I had the image of the space, right, where they show in the movie where it's like he sees all the stars, right? And he basically, that's a representation, I think, of in the movie Peter Jackson was trying to get, was a representation of him going outside, you know, spiritual into another realm, right? Wherever that may be, like, you know, into the heavenly realm or wherever, you know, like the halls of Mandos, right? Which are like the heaven of sort of waiting area in the Lord of the Rings, right? Until they that's another video. We'll do another video. Let's not get too confusing. But anyway, they resurrect him, right? So through the Valar's power or LOTR, they resurrect Gandalf, right? And he wakes back up, you know, like they did in the movie, right? Ian McKellen's great acting, right? And then, right, he comes back, right? He's like resurrected, right? I see an interesting similarity to this part when they don't quite know who it is to a little bit interesting to what is in the story of the Bible with the part where they don't recognize Jesus, some of the disciples, right? And then they do, right? Jesus, like, then they recognize him. They realize it's him. It was almost like they were being blocked, right? For a minute, like being able to see him. So I found that a little interesting little parallel there. But again, I don't want to go too much into that because Tolkien was very clear he didn't really like super parallels. For example, one of his best friends was C.S. Lewis, right? C.S. Lewis's Narnia is very obviously, C.S. Lewis even said, parallels. Aslan is a parallel to Jesus, right, in the Bible. But Tolkien didn't really like that as much. He wanted his story to be his own story altogether. But again, the point of my lore video right now is that things that he believed in, Tolkien believed in, right, did impact his ideas, his invention of this wonderful, amazing world, right? His beliefs and what he thought was reality in our lifetime and our world into his story of Middle-earth, right? Okay, so that's my point. All right, so anyway, there he's resurrected. It's pretty cool. Ian McKellen does such a good job with Gandalf. He's such a good actor. But anyway, very exciting. And then he is back, right? Now, one interesting parallel, too, that I thought was very interesting, what Tolkien pointed, is that both Gandalf and Glorfindel, who we're going to talk about now, they were both sent back by the Valar. They did not resurrect themselves by their own power. Does that make sense? They weren't like, oh, I'm dead. I'm a spirit. I'm going to myself, right? Resurrect myself, you know? I'm thinking like a video game. But resurrect myself, right? Because that's different. Reviving someone is a different thing than resurrecting, right? Resurrecting means you were dead. You were not coming back, right? Reviving means that they were on the brink of death. Maybe they died for a few seconds, but, you know, brought them back like that. But no, Gandalf died. Glorfindel died. They were not coming back. But the Valar and LOTR sent them back. So now we're going to talk about his story real quick, right? With it. So again, the interesting thing that I thought was a very interesting parallel too is that Jesus with his power resurrects Lazarus, right? In the Bible, which is another person who died, and he comes when Jesus, before he died on the cross, he came and resurrected him. So it's more of like, if I was going to compare something, Gandalf and Glorfindel's resurrections would be more like that, because Jesus, when it comes to Jesus in history, he resurrected himself because he's God, right? Okay, so that's a little bit of different there in my belief, right? Again, I'm not pushing that on you guys, of course. I just trying to show you guys the interesting parallels because that's what Tolkien believed, right, in life. So anyway, so now let's talk about Glorfindel. Okay, I'm having a lot of fun with this little video. Thank you for joining me. If you're enjoying this, don't forget to like and subscribe, you guys, and check out my other content on the playlists. This is my lore playlist. So Glorfindel, great character, right? We love Glorfindel. We were a little sad he's taken out of the movies, but Peter Jackson took him out of the movies, right? I really like Glorfindel. He's a really cool character. He could go probably toe to toe with Sauron. Like, he's pretty dang amazing, right? So Glorfindel, again, it's interesting because he also sacrificed. And there's an interesting thing of sacrifice going on, right? Because again, this is why I'm doing this video for Easter, because Gandalf sacrificed and died, right? And so did Glorfindel to save his elven people. And Gandalf saved the Fellowship, right? They sacrificed to fight this horrible evil. And again, what did Jesus do? He sacrificed, died on the cross, to save us from our sins, right? That was the whole point. And again, if you guys don't know, that is in the story. You don't need to do any works to get to heaven. According to Jesus, he said it very clearly. If you accept Jesus into your heart and confess your sins, you're saved. That's it. It's just a free gift. There's no strings attached, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, we have to do all these things and go to church and all this stuff. It's like, that's not what Jesus said. I'm a strict believer in what Jesus said in the Bible. I don't like added things. I think people, when they add things on, it's not what Jesus meant. So anyway, moving on. So Glorfindel, very, very cool character. I love him. So he basically, right, he's actually the one that saved Frodo, right, in the movies. So a lot of people don't realize this. He was so powerful, he was able to fight off all the Nazgul, including the Witch King, right? And then what did he do, right, in the movie? Do you guys remember, right? So he, well, not in the movie, sorry. Arwen does it in the movie, right? Which again, Arwen's awesome. I'm not taking away from Arwen. She's really cool. The movie was really well done, but it is kind of sad because the books was very clear that it was Glorfindel that saves Frodo. And here's an awesome, I love this rendition of Glorfindel. Very cool. Very awesome horse, right? So that's just a cool rendition I found online. And then here's the shot of him basically, him and Elrond's power is the one that wiped away the 9 Nazgul, including the Witch King. You guys, the Witch King was no joke, right? He is a strong, evil villain, right? Didn't kill him, but it wiped him away from Rivendell, right? So, and then, of course, now let's talk about what did Glorfindel do? What did he sacrifice? Gandalf fought one Balrog, right? Now, that's very cool, right? Now, Glorfindel was, remember, he's not a Maiar. He's an elf. He's just an elf, right? But he has great power because he saw the Undying Lands. He's from the First Age. He had a lot of power, right? He has tons of power, right? But he fought several, I think he fought one or two, he might have fought two. I can't actually remember off the top of my head right now with that passage. It's in a lot of the Unfinished Tales and Silmarillion. But he fought, this is such a cool picture. Look at that. Now again, the Balrog has, I know the Balrog has wings, but let's just bypass that. But this is supposed to be a rendition of Glorfindel fighting a Balrog. With Gondolin, when Gondolin was being attacked. And basically what he did was he sacrificed and fought one or two, I can't remember, and he killed him, and he fell down and also was killed down a crevice of a mountain. But he saved all the elves that were running away, right? So he sacrificed himself. And because of that, oh, and look at this shot. This is super cool. Look at that. I just love how cool he looks right here with the fire. Like, it's just really well done art. Very, very cool, whoever did this. And that's like Glorfindel, like it is actual, like a more rendition of him using magic kind of thing, right? So very cool. But then he was killed, right? So he dies. Glorfindel died. And then he went to the halls of Mandos. And then the Valar sent him back as a reward, basically, and to watch the world, right? And again, it's not necessarily a punishment in the Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's lore to go, because then when you go to the halls of Mandos, you basically just kind of wait, and then everything's going to be kind of, later you're going to get to join in with everything, right? So it's not a bad thing, but they sent him back to basically be a defender and to also reward him for his sacrifice, because he died kind of, he was trying to defend everyone against these horrible, evil Balrogs, right? So again, he died for sacrifice. So again, this whole video is kind of that's why I did an Easter special again. It's a whole thing about sacrifice, right? And like sacrificing for others. And I just thought that was a cool little parallel to have for that. And I'm not afraid to say what I believe in. And again, guys, I am not trying to make anyone feel uncomfortable or push anything on anyone. I love everyone who watches my channel, and I don't care what your beliefs are, you are welcome at Voice of the Rings, okay? Even if you don't believe in God, even if you, whatever, you are still welcome here, right? I love it. I love to hear other people's views on things like that, and at the same time, I think it's cool if you guys are willing to hear my thoughts on that, right? But again, the main point of this video was the lore of the resurrection and sacrifice of Gandalf and Glorfindel, and I thought very interesting that the two characters that Tolkien talks about in this way, and they both they did not resurrect themselves with their own power. That's a very important point that Tolkien interestingly showed. They weren't like magic and just brought themselves back from the dead. No, they were both brought back their souls and revived, or not revived, I don't like to use that word because it means they might have been alive still, resurrected from the powers of the Valar, the gods, and Iluvatar, the One, right? And I find that very interesting too, but we'll go on a whole other lore video if you want of the parallels of that. And again, in other future lore videos too, I won't be paralleling things with like the Bible and stuff all the time. I'll be doing actual lore stuff, but I just thought this was really an interesting one, an important one. And I think that Tolkien's beliefs really did impact his thoughts on these two resurrections of Glorfindel and Gandalf. And that, like, you know, God resurrected them because of their sacrifice, their selfless sacrifice. So anyway, I just thought that was pretty cool, and we did it. That was what I wanted to talk over, and I hope that you enjoyed that. So you guys have a wonderful day in Middle-earth. Thank you so much for joining your hosting guide, Zollin Ironshield, and please check out my other content on the channel. I have lots of other things, and quick little shout out and thank you to my wonderful Patreons for your support. Thank you to Mr. Revel for being a royal guardian, and all my other wonderful Patreons. We got an Axe Guard now too, and an Iron Guard. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your support, and all of you guys for subscribing and liking. I really appreciate it. There will be a subscribe button right there if I earned it and you enjoyed this. The next episode of this lore playlist will be up there, and my main content, a LOTR will be over there, where I do voiceovers through Lord of the Rings Online with Zollin Ironshield. So you guys have a wonderful day in Middle-earth, and I'll see you in the next episode of Voice of the Rings. See ya.